Hey Joe, where you going with that radio?
Have you ever heard a song so iconic you couldn't imagine anyone else singing it? Well, brace yourself, because some of the most legendary tracks in music history were actually borrowed, reworked, and completely transformed from their original versions. These weren't just covers, they were reinventions so powerful they overshadowed the originals. Join us in this video as we take a look at 10 songs you didn't know were covers. Number 1. Respect, Aretha Franklin, 1967.
You know I got it too. All I'm asking is for a little respect when you just a little bit, babe.
Otis Redding, the king of Southern Soul, released Respect in 1965 as a swaggering R&B track dripping with male bravado.
All I'm asking for a little respect when I come home. Hey.
His version wasn't about empowerment. It was about a hard-working man demanding appreciation when he came home. All I'm asking, he growled, is for a little respect when I come home. It was bluesy, rough around the edges, and pure Otis. But while the song charted modestly, it didn't shake the world. Yet. That would take a woman's touch. In 1967, Aretha Franklin took Redding's song, flipped the perspective, and turned it into a declaration. No longer was respect about a man asking for acknowledgement. It became a demand for dignity from a woman, from Black Americans, from everyone who had ever been overlooked. She didn't just sing the song, she owned it. Her voice soared with confidence, and she added the now iconic RESPECT breakdown, backed by powerhouse backup vocals and a groove that hit harder than Redding's original. And let's not forget that sassy call and response, "Sock it to me, sock it to me, sock it to me," a phrase so catchy it became part of the cultural lexicon. The impact was massive. Franklin's version became an anthem for civil rights and feminist movements, lasting from radios, protests, and rallies across America. By the time it hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, it was no longer just a song, it was a revolution. Fun fact, when Otis Redding first heard Franklin's version, he reportedly said, "Well, I guess it's hers now." Even the original artist knew he'd been outdone. Respect wasn't just a cover, it was a transformation. Aretha Franklin didn't just sing this song, she rewrote its legacy, turning it into one of the most powerful declarations of independence in music history. And that's the kind of impact that really deserves some respect. Number 2. I Love Rock and Roll, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, 1981. If I asked you to name the ultimate rock anthem, chances are you'd hear Joan Jett's raspy, rebellious voice in your head. I love rock and roll, so put another dime in the jukebox, baby. It's gritty, it's electrifying, it's Joan Jett. But here's what most people don't know. Joan Jett didn't write it. In fact, she wasn't even the first person to record it. That honor goes to a little-known British band called the Arrows, who originally sang it 6 years before Jett got her hands on it. The Arrows, a UK-based rock band led by American singer Alan Merrill, recorded I Love Rock and Roll in 1975. Their version had all the elements of a classic glam rock track, a stomping beat, catchy hooks, and a cocky, rebellious energy. But there was one big difference. Unlike Jett's version, the Arrows' original wasn't a celebration of rock and roll. It was sarcastic. Merrill wrote the song as a response to the Rolling Stones. "It's only rock and roll, but I like it," and his lyrics dripped with irony. When he sang I Love Rock and Roll, he wasn't screaming it from the rooftops. He was mocking the music industry's commercialization of rock. It was a solid track, but there was just one problem. It never really took off. The Arrows version wasn't even released as a proper single. Instead, it was buried on the B-side of another song, lost in the shuffle of the 70s rock scene. Fast forward to 1976, Joan Jett, then a young, hungry rocker fresh off her runaway days, happened to catch the Arrows performing the song on British TV, and something clicked. She knew instantly, this song was meant for her. At first, she tried recording it with members of the Sex Pistols in 1979, but the version never gained traction. So, when she formed the Blackhearts in 1981, she gave it another shot. This time, cranking up the distortion, roughening up the vocals, and turning the song into a full-throttle declaration of rock and roll rebellion. Gone was the sarcasm. Gone was the detached cool. Jett's version meant every word. It was loud, it was anthemic, and it was the perfect middle finger to anyone who had ever doubted her place in rock. The result? 7 weeks at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It became the defining song of her career, cementing her as rock's ultimate bad and turning I Love Rock and Roll into an actual anthem for generations of rock fans. The crazy part is that Alan Merrill, the guy who wrote the song, never got to fully cash in on its success. While Jett's version made millions, the Arrows version was largely forgotten. Merrill once joked, "I hear my song in arenas all over the world, and I'm the only guy who never got to play it there." Folks, we're just getting started. Some covers take a song and elevate it. Others completely rewrite history. Next up, a Motown B-side that became one of the biggest synth pop hits of the 80s. Stay tuned, because this one is wild. Number 3, Tainted Love, Soft Cell, 1981.
Sometimes I feel I've got to run away, I've got to.
You know the song, that eerie, pulsating beat, the voice dripping with heartbreak as it pleads, "Once I ran to you, now I run from you." It's peak 1980s. It's Soft Cell. But what if I told you this wasn't their song at all? In fact, Tainted Love was born nearly 2 decades earlier as a full-blown Motown banger.
Sometimes I feel I've got to run away.
Back in 1964, a singer named Gloria Jones recorded Tainted Love as a B-side to her single My Bad Boy's Comin' Home, written by Ed Cobb. The track was classic Northern soul, fast, fiery, packed with horns, and overflowing with emotions. But despite Jones's powerhouse vocals and the song's infectious energy, it went absolutely nowhere. It wasn't a hit, it wasn't even a minor success. Instead, it vanished into obscurity, becoming just another lost gem in the ever-growing world of forgotten soul records. That is until the Northern Soul revival of the 1970s. In the UK, crate-digging DJs unearthed Tainted Soul and began spinning it at underground dance clubs. Suddenly, the song had a following, with British audiences embracing it as an underground classic. And among the many listeners who fell in love with it, a synth-pop duo called Soft Cell. Soft Cell took Tainted Love and stripped it down to its core emotions, then rebuilt it into something completely different. Gone were the horns, the fast tempo, the frenzied energy. Instead, Soft Cell slowed the song way down, adding pulsating synths and a brooding, almost robotic vocal delivery. The result was a song that felt colder, darker, and way more tragic. But that was the magic. The band took a heartbroken plea and turned it into a nightmare. The pulsating synths made it feel trapped, like the singer was suffocating in his own misery. It wasn't just heartbreak anymore, it was obsession. The transformation was massive. Tainted Love became one of the biggest hits in the early 80s, spending a record-breaking 43 weeks on the UK singles chart and storming the US Billboard Hot 100. And if you grabbed the 12-inch vinyl, you'd get an even longer version that seamlessly segued into a cover of the Supremes, Where Did Our Love Go? A nod to its Motown roots. You'd think Gloria Jones would be thrilled her song finally found success, right? Well, not exactly. She later called Soft Cell's version wimpy compared to her original, saying it lost the raw energy that made it special. Whether you love Soft Cell's haunting take or prefer Jones's soulful original, one thing is undeniable. This song lived 2 completely different lives, one in the underground soul scene, the other on the neon-lit dance floors of the 1980s. And honestly, that's what makes it legendary. Number 4, The Tide is High, Blondie.
The tide is high, but I'm holding on.
Back in 1967, a Jamaican rocksteady group called the Paragons released The Tide is High as a soulful, harmony-rich single, with lead vocals by John Holt, The song had that classic rocksteady feel, warm, swaying, and unmistakably Jamaican. And in Jamaica, it was huge. The track became a beloved favorite, played at parties and on the radio, solidifying the Paragons as one of the era's standout vocal groups. But outside of the island, it barely made a ripple. Fast forward to the late 70s, Blondie was riding high off the success of Heart of Glass and Call Me, when Debbie Harry and her bandmates stumbled upon the Paragons' The Tide Is High. They didn't just cover it, they reinvented it. Blondie kept the song's reggae backbone, but infused it with new wave polish. The arrangement became richer, the production more layered. They added sweeping orchestral flourishes, a bigger, bouncier rhythm, and Debbie Harry's cool, effortless vocals, transforming the track into something fresh and radio-ready. The result? A #1 hit in both the US and UK, proving that reggae rhythms could translate to mainstream pop in a massive way. Blondie weren't the only ones who saw potential in this track. Years later, Cardinal Offishall and Rihanna would put their own spin on The Tide Is High with the 2008 hit The Tide Is High, Get the Feeling. And just like Blondie, they took the song even further into pop territory. We're still not done. Some covers get reinvented musically, others get flipped entirely, changing the song's meaning itself. Up next, a song originally written by a man that became a feminist anthem. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one. Number 5, Girls Just Wanna Have Fun. Cyndi Lauper, 1983. Bright colors, infectious energy, and pure 1980s fun. Cyndi Lauper's Girls Just Wanna Have Fun was everywhere. It was more than a song, it was a cultural moment, an anthem of female empowerment that still gets cranked up at parties today. But what if I told you this bright colors, infectious energy, and pure 1980s fun? Cyndi Lauper's Girls Just Wanna Have Fun was everywhere. It was more than a song, it was a cultural moment, an anthem of female empowerment that still gets cranked up at parties today. But what if I told you this feminist rallying cry actually started as a guy's song, and not in a good way? In 1979, Philadelphia rocker Robert Hazard wrote and recorded a demo of Girls Just Wanna Have Fun, and let's just say, the vibe was completely different. Hazard's version wasn't an empowering anthem, it was a cocky macho boast. The lyrics weren't about female independence, they were about a man talking about how girls just want to have fun with him. It had a brash, rock and roll swagger, but it was missing something: heart. The song never got an official release, but it did circulate in industry circles, which is how it landed in the hands of Cyndi Lauper. Lauper took one look at the lyrics and thought, nope, this isn't it. But instead of ditching the song entirely, she rewrote it, flipping the perspective completely. Suddenly, Girls Just Wanna Have Fun wasn't about a guy bragging. It was about women owning their joy, their independence, their right to have a good time. And the sound? That changed too. Lauper and producer Rick Chertoff infused the track with bright, bouncy synths, quirky expressions, and Lauper's unmistakable, unapologetic vocals. It wasn't just a hit, it was a movement. The song became an anthem for women of all ages, topping charts worldwide and setting the stage for Lauper's career as a pop icon. A fun fact about this cover is that Cyndi Lauper fought hard to make sure this song's message wasn't diluted. The record label wanted a sexy, male-gaze version of the music video, but Lauper insisted on a fun, inclusive visual featuring women of all backgrounds and body types. That decision helped cement the song's status as a true feminist anthem. Number 6. Red Red Wine, UB40, 1983.
Red, red wine.
UB40's Red Red Wine is the ultimate laid-back reggae groove. The second those smooth, mellow chords hit, you can practically feel the warm island breeze. It's the song you play when you're kicking back with a drink in your hand. But what if I told you this song wasn't Jamaican at all? In fact, it started out as a folk pop ballad by one of the biggest American songwriters of all time. In 1967, Neil Diamond, Yes, that Neil Diamond wrote and recorded Red Red Wine as a slow, melancholic ballad.
Red, red wine.
His version was drenched in sorrow, with the lyrics painting a picture of a man drowning his heartbreak in alcohol. It had zero reggae influence, no island vibes, just raw, classic singer-songwriter sadness. While the song had a certain charm, it didn't become a major hit. Instead, it quietly existed in Diamond's vast catalog, overshadowed by bigger songs like Sweet Caroline and Cracklin' Rosie. And then, something interesting happened. In 1969, a Jamaican artist named Tony Tribe recorded Red Red Wine as a reggae track, completely transforming it with an upbeat, island-inspired arrangement. His version became a minor hit in Jamaica and the UK, setting the stage for UB40 to discover it more than a decade later. When UB40, a British reggae band, came across Red Red Wine, they had no idea Neil Diamond wrote it. They only knew the Tony Tribe version, which they thought was a Jamaican original. So they took that version, pumped it up, and gave it their signature reggae pop treatment. They added rich instrumentation, a hypnotic groove, and Ollie Campbell's smooth, effortless vocals. It was pure chill-out music, and the public loved it. Red Red Wine topped the UK charts in 1983, and 5 years later, re-entered the US Billboard charts, this time going all the way to number 1. Fun fact, Neil Diamond didn't even know UB40 covered his song until it hit the top of the charts. He later said he loved their version, admitting it was way better than his original. Our next song took a cinematic jazzy tune and turned it into the biggest pop song of 1981. Oh, and it's got serious star power behind it. Number 7. Betty Davis Eyes, Kim Carnes, 1981.
Her hands are never cold. She's got Betty Davis eyes.
Kim Carnes' Betty Davis Eyes dominated the airwaves in 1981. It was a massive hit, spending 9 weeks at number 1 and becoming the defining song of the year. With its eerie synths, husky vocals, and hypnotic beat, it felt like the perfect product of the early 80s. But what if I told you this song wasn't born in the 80s at all? In fact, its original version sounded nothing like Carnes' chart-topping masterpiece.
Her hands are never cold. She's got Betty Davis eyes. She'll turn the music.
Rewind to 1974, Jackie DeShannon, a singer-songwriter best known for writing Put a Little Love in Your Heart, released a very different version of Betty Davis Eyes. DeShannon's take was soft, jazzy, and loungy, the kind of song you expect to hear in a dimly lit cocktail bar. It had piano flourishes, a light, breezy tempo, and a completely different mood. It wasn't bad, but it definitely wasn't a chart topper. It just came and went. Fast forward to the early 80s, Kim Carnes and her producer Val Garay stumbled across the song and had a radical idea. What if they took this jazzy, laid-back tune and made it cold, sharp, and futuristic? They stripped it down, ditched the pianos and jazz flourishes, and replaced them with haunting synthesizers, pulsing drum machines, and that unmistakable raspy vocal delivery. The result was pure magic. Carnes' version was electric. It felt dangerous, seductive, and completely unlike anything else on the radio. The transformation was so effective that most people had no idea it was a cover. Number 8. Come On Feel the Noise, Quiet Riot, 1983. Come On Feel the Noise is one of the most recognizable anthems in hard rock history. The kind of song that makes you want to crank the volume and shout along at the top of your lungs. But here's the thing, this wasn't an American metal track at all. In fact, the real story behind this song, it's full of attitude, resistance, and a huge accident that changed rock history forever. The year was 1973, and British glam rockers Slade were unstoppable. In the UK, they were scoring hit after hit with their rowdy, foot-stomping anthems, and Come On Feel the Noise was no exception. Written by Slade's Noddy Holder and Jim Lee, the song was a full-throttle call to arms, a wild beer-soaked celebration of pure rock energy. It soared to number 1 in the UK, cementing Slade as one of the biggest British rock bands of the era. But in America, crickets. For some reason, Slade never quite broke through in the US, and for a decade, Come On Feel the Noise remained a UK-only hit. That is until a young metal band from Los Angeles came along. By the early 80s, Quiet Riot were struggling to break out. Their label, desperate for a hit, forced them to record Come On Feel the Noise, even though they hated the idea. Lead singer Kevin Dubrow was furious. He didn't want to cover some old British glam rock song, so in protest, the band decided to sabotage the recording. Their plan? Play it sloppy and ruin the take. But here's where things get funny. Even though they were trying to mess it up, the opposite happened. What they accidentally created was a harder, heavier, and more aggressive version of Come On Feel the Noise. And it rocked. The label loved it, the fans went nuts, and suddenly Quiet Riot had a massive hit on their hands. Their version stormed the charts, becoming the first heavy metal song to ever crack the top 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. Quiet Riot's success with Come On Feel the Noise led to a full-blown Slade revival. The song's newfound popularity helped Slade finally break into the American market, nearly a decade after its original release. So far, we've seen covers that redefine their originals, but our next one? It's a song with a history so deep, it traces back centuries, and the band that made it famous, they also almost didn't record it at all. You won't believe this next one. Number 9, House of the Rising Sun, The Animals, 1964. House of the Rising Sun was a big hit. The Animals version sent shockwaves through the music world, shooting to number 1 in both the UK and the US. It was eerie, hypnotic, and completely different from anything else on the charts in 1964. But here's the twist. This wasn't a new song. It wasn't even an old song. It was more ancient than old. Nobody knows exactly where or when House of the Rising Sun was written. The song's roots stretch so far into the past that its true origins have been lost to time. Music historians believe it started as a 16th century English folk ballad, which then made its way across the Atlantic with early settlers. Over the years, it evolved into an American folk song, passed down orally from generation to generation.
They call the rising sun, where many...
By the early 20th century, it had become a part of blues and folk music, with different musicians adding their own twists. Some sang it from a woman's perspective, warning of a life ruined by sin. Others framed it as a man's lament about gambling and vice. The first known recording was made in 1933 by folk singer Clarence Ashley, but the most famous pre-Animals version came in 1941, when musicologist Alan Lomax recorded Leadbelly performing it. But no one owned the song, it was just floating through history, waiting for someone to claim it. In 1964, the Animals were opening for Chuck Berry when they decided to put their own spin on the old folk tune. Lead singer Eric Burdon suggested a darker, heavier arrangement, and the band went all in. Instead of the usual acoustic folk sound, they gave it a haunting electric guitar riff, a pounding organ, and Eric Burdon's intense, almost preacher-like vocals. The result? A gothic, cinematic, and utterly chilling blues rock masterpiece. It was so powerful even Bob Dylan, who had previously recorded a folk version, was reportedly stunned when he heard it, realizing just how much a song could be transformed. Fun fact, the Animals recorded the entire song in one take. That's right, one go, straight through, and it was perfect. Most songs have an origin story. House of the Rising Sun, it has a legend. And when the Animals got their hands on it, they didn't just record a song. They sealed it in history. Number 10, Hey Joe, Jimi Hendrix, 1966.
Hey Joe, where you going now? Grab your head.
Hey Joe was Jimi Hendrix's breakout hit, the song that announced him as the future of rock and roll. It was raw, dangerous, and otherworldly. But here's the wild part. Hendrix didn't write Hey Joe. He wasn't even the first to record it. The real origins? They trace back to an underground garage rock scene on the other side of the country. The song Hey Joe is what you call a murder ballad. A man shoots his wife, then flees to Mexico, a tale as old as time, except this one had a twist.
Hey Joe, what are you gonna do?
The song's authorship is disputed, but it's widely credited to folk musician Billy Roberts, who allegedly wrote it in the early 60s. From there, it got passed around among underground musicians, shifting and evolving along the way. The first actual recording came in 1965 from The Leaves, a garage rock band from Los Angeles. Their version was fast, energetic, and aggressive, more like an early punk song than the slow, burning epic Hendrix would later create. It had some regional success, but Hey Joe still wasn't a big song. Not yet. Now here's where things get interesting. Folk rocker Tim Rose recorded his own version of Hey Joe, slowing it way down, giving it tension and drama.
Hey, Joe, where you go with that money in your hand?
When Jimi Hendrix heard that version, he saw infinite potential. He took Tim Rose's slower tempo and expanded it, added bluesy guitar licks, injected psychedelic atmosphere, and with the help of his new band, the Jimi Hendrix Experience, he completely reimagined the song. Hendrix's Hey Joe wasn't just a song, it was an encounter. It was slow, simmering, and dangerously hypnotic. His guitar didn't just play notes, it wept, screamed, and howled. The moment it was released in late 1966, the rock world changed forever. Fun fact, Hey Joe was the first song Jimi Hendrix ever performed in England. It blew minds, and just weeks later, he was signed to a record deal. Which one blew your mind the most? Did you already know these were covers? Or did some of these completely shock you? Let us know in the comments. And if you love this journey into music history, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a deep cut like this. Because trust me, we've got plenty more mind-blowing music stories coming your way. See you in the next one.